Hi everybody, welcome to Simply Scuba. For today's Google Answered, I was thinking about typing in scuba regulator and then seeing where that led me, and it felt like I'd answered most of those questions that I'd come up with, so I thought I'd go somewhere a little bit different, and I typed in Simply Scuba to see what questions popped up in Google, and it took me to some very interesting directions. Is Simply Scuba still trading? Yes. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't. This question most likely comes from our change in ownership a few years back after the dreaded 2019 that we don't talk about anymore. The company that owned Simply Scuba and a few other websites, which was Simply Scuba Limited, it's complicated, but bear with me. That company went into administration, but all was not lost. A UK-based multi-sports company called Internet Fusion bought the rights to Simply Scuba and brought it back from the brink. They gave me a job, which is why I'm here, and we are very much still trading internationally and everything. We even have some new brands that we didn't have beforehand. So yes, don't worry, Simply Scuba is very much still trading. Does Simply Scuba have a shop? That was one of the biggest changes to the new ownership, in that we don't have a physical shop anymore that you can visit. Simply Scuba is purely digital, which is where a vast majority of our sales were anyway, so that made sense. A fair few divers would travel long and far to actually visit us in the shop back in the day, but in modern times, it's far more cost effective and practical to not have a physical dive store and to heat and light it and everything. So whilst yes, we do have a shop that you can visit online, we don't have a physical location that you can visit. Is scuba a word? Scuba is technically an acronym, so the first letters of a phrase becomes the word scuba. That phrase, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. It was coined by one of the fathers of underwater exploration, Dr. Christian Lambertson, in 1954. Scuba was a less self-serving name for his LARU, or Lambertson Amphibious Respiratory Unit, that he invented. But today, you see scuba, whenever you see scuba, you should strictly write it out in block capitals because it is an acronym and not a word. However, because language is constantly evolving throughout the ages, can scuba ever just become a word because everybody uses it as a word now? Is that the way language works? But technically, no, scuba is an acronym. How long does a mini scuba tank last? Mini scuba tank is pretty vague. The smallest cylinder that most scuba divers will take down with them as some redundancy is like a 3-litre pony, but you can find some much smaller ones that are either targeted as like real emergency backups for scuba divers to get to their buddy, or for snorkelers to explore the water a little bit deeper. Only due to their very small internal volume, you don't get long, especially if you dive down deeper. We can actually do the maths on these ones. Some of these cylinders, they have internal volumes of around 0.4, 0.42 litres. You pressurize that to about 200 bar, that's usually the lower limit, and you have about 80 litres of gas. The average human has a lung capacity of around 6 litres per breath, so that's about 13 full breaths in that little canister. 13. Now, you can find higher capacity and higher pressure tanks, but with these little tanks, not long. You're not supposed to spend a lot of time breathing from them. Do not rely on them to give you like bountiful minutes of air, especially if you're breathing heavily, so not long, and even shorter when you're deep down. What is the deepest dive by a human? The current deep diving record on scuba is about 332 meters, just over. It's held by Egyptian diver Ahmed Gabber back in 2014. There are a few divers that dispute it. It's one of those really hard records to prove because the Guinness guy can't be down there with his clipboard to confirm it. It's just the diver themselves and their equipment to confirm how deep they actually went. I think he did get a tag as well, but some people dispute things. Anyway, but 332, but a lot of scuba divers We don't like these sorts of records because it encourages other divers to try and beat it and go even further, which is just dangerous. In ADS, which is basically the person-shaped submarine, I mean, divers have gone down to 600 meters, but then it's kind of, where does it become a submarine and when is it just like a diver? But 332 is really the maximum limit that we've been to so far. Which is pretty deep, far deeper than I'm ever going to go for, that's for sure. But if you have any questions that you'd like to ask or subjects that you'd like to know more about, then let me know down in the comments below and subscribe to the Simply Scuba channel for more scuba diving videos. Then, of course, head over to simplyscuba.com where we sell a whole bunch of exciting scuba diving and free diving equipment. And finally, if you want some scuba diving merchandise, click on the banner underneath this video to check out our spring store. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.